Okay, so what about when I create my Tesla? So right now, all I'm doing is creating a Tesla, and by default, I have these colors set. It's black, it has 0 miles, it has the years set, everything's already set for me. What if I want to assign these assign these variables when I create my Tesla? So let's just have basically instantiate these variables, but we'll set them when we create a Tesla. So in Python, when we wanted to create an instance of our class, we have the dunder init, right? So how do we do that? What corresponds to dunder init in Java?
Could be constructors.
Constructors, right? So how do we know that a method is a constructor? I don't even remember if I need the public keyword.
What was the question again?
How do we know that a method is a constructor? So if you can't remember, we can always use the Java code generator to generate our constructors for us. So we have the option of creating an empty constructor, and we have the option of generating a constructor with all fields in our application. So if we don't create a constructor, Java makes one for us by default. So we have a NOAR constructor. So let me go ahead and generate that. So if I come down Java code generators and I generate an empty constructor, we know that it's a constructor because the name of the method is the exact same as the name of the class. So if we have a method, if our class is called Tesla and we have a Tesla method, we know that this is a constructor. Okay. So now if I run this code, by default, if we don't set a string variable, it's going to set it to null. And then if we don't set mileage, let's do charge. Charge. There we go. So if we don't set an int, it will default to 0. I think a Boolean defaults to false. So what if we want to, when we create our Tesla, right? We've saved up our money and we're going to go into the Tesla dealer and get our own Tesla. We want to be able to set up our Tesla when we first create it. What do I need? What kind of constructor do I need?
You want to set the color now and the miles and year. No?
Yeah, so like when I go into order a Tesla, I want a yellow one, and I want 0 miles, and I want I want it fully charged when I pick it up, right? So instead of just setting the default values to null, right, with the NOAR constructor, we can generate a constructor that has all of our attributes. So if I go to Java code generators, I can select generate constructor using all fields. Okay, so if I select this, it'll create the constructor that takes in color, miles, year. Okay.
Right.
Anthony, I'm going to mute you.
That's like Python, right?
Yeah, it's just like Python. It's just that, in Python, this would be the dunder init method, but in Java and in C++ is this way as well. If you want to create a constructor, the method just has the same name as the class. Okay, so now what happens if I take this out? If I comment this out, errors pop up. Why did the errors show up? It breaks, yeah. Why?
They need two.
I'm Sorry.
So you have two constructors, right? Public Tesla and then the one down with all the fields.
Yeah.
But you need both.
Right.
You need to call it and then you need to set it up.
So if we don't have any constructors, right? If we just are back in this situation with nothing, Java automatically generates a no-arg constructor. So it will automatically, I can create a Tesla without passing anything in, right? As soon as I make a constructor though,
You have to put the information in, no?
then the no-arg constructor goes away. So as soon as I create a constructor that takes arguments, that default no-arg constructor that Java gives you goes away. So if we do this, if we make a constructor that takes in parameters like this
You have
one,
to change it on the main.
we have to actually create the no-arg constructor.
Oh,
So if I generate empty constructor, now I can either make a Tesla with all the stuff that I put in it, or I can just make one that gives me the default values. Okay, so I think about it like, you know, the Miranda rights that police officers read. You have a right to remain silent. You have a right to an attorney. If you can't afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you, right? So if you don't have a no-arg constructor, it'll give you one. But as soon as you hire an attorney, you got to basically put that no-arg constructor back in. Okay.
So there's no way to like bypass it, because you're writing or you're typing public Tesla twice.
Yes. So remember yesterday we talked about methods that could be overloaded.
Mm.
So we could have a method like we had a method greet that took in a name, or it didn't take in a name, or it took in a message, it didn't take in a message. So we can have as many constructors as we want. So I can add another one. Let me just generate constructor using all fields. But if I only want to pass in the color, then I can create a Tesla and only pass in the color. The mileage year and charge will be set to the default. So I can now say Tesla, making sure I don't spell your name wrong, manuals Tesla equals new Tesla. So this doesn't give me an error, right? I can make a Tesla with the default values, or I can pass in a Tesla with a color. What color do you want?
Say blue.
Blue. Okay, so now you have a blue Tesla. So when Java knows that, okay, he's passing in a color, I've got a constructor that only takes color, I'm going to call this one. So if I pass in other arguments, if I pass in the miles, I'm going to give you one. They have to drive it off the boat or whatever. And then the years, I'll give you a new one. And the charge is 100. Right? Why is it mad?
You get an error because it's not in the field. There's no fields for it.
I have.
Because you deleted the other one, right?
No, I didn't.
You didn't?
Oh, I didn't save the file. I didn't save the file.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
No, I thought you deleted it and you changed it.
Did I?
Or is it still
Yeah,
there?
No, it's right here.
not,
Oh, I did
that's
delete
what you meant.
yeah, the constructor deleted. The other one.
Why did I do that? Okay, let me generate it again.
Yeah, yeah.
There we go. So now, okay, sorry about that. So I've got a Tesla that's no arg, right? So I can create a Tesla just like this. I can only pass in the color because I've got a constructor that accounts for when I only pass in color. Then I've got an arg constructor, or a constructor with all the arguments, so I can pass in and specify, right? I want you can specify the year and all that stuff. So you can have as many constructors, right? You can have all the different possibilities. How many possibilities are there? Somebody know I think was there 5, right? 5 different constructors, because you could have one that just takes in miles, one that just takes in the year, and so on.
Is it from how many you set up on the object on top the class?
Yeah. So however many parameters there are, you can set up a constructor to only take in miles, right? And then it'll set a color default for all the others.
A quick question.
Yeah.
Because you said there's 5 possibilities, right? So let's
I'm
just say we
guessing.
did.
I'm not sure if there are 5 possibilities.
Oh,
So there's all of them, which is 1, and then 1 with each, so that's 6, right? No. So there's 1 with 4, 1 with 1, 1 with 2, 1 with 3, 1 with 4, 1 with 0. So 6 different possibilities.
okay. But my question is like, if you made, let's just say, 4 different ones. Let's say the string color, the ink miles, the ink year, and the ink charge. Let's say you just made like 4 of those.
Uh-huh.
Would you be able to do 2 of them, or would it be specifically for that specific one?
Specifically for that case. So if
Got
if I only have these, like when I tried this, when I forgot that I erased it, it's going to throw me an error if I don't have a constructor for those parameters.
Mm.
So if I want a constructor that only takes in, if I want to be able to create a Tesla with only the color and the miles, I generate the constructor and then take out the year and the chart. Wait, am I deleting the right one? Oh, it doesn't. That's why it doesn't generate.
same
it.
one.
Already there. Yeah.
You
okay.
can copy and paste it. No.
Yeah. Gotta do it the old-fashioned way. Okay, so now I can take out year and charge.
Oh, man.
There we go. So
Okay.
now I have a constructor for only color, a constructor for all of them, a constructor for only color and miles.
So you would have to make one based on whatever combinations that you allow it to have.
Yes.
Got it.
You don't have to do that though. You don't have to have. Generally, when you make a object, you decide what you're gonna make, right? So if you want it, unless you want to account for all the possibilities, you can, but you don't have to.
Does that go from top to bottom in precedence or just randomly?
What do you mean?
Like how we see one color, just color, right? And then you
Uh-huh.
have Tesla with everything options on it.
Uh-huh.
And then this third one with 2 options on it. But what if you just put 2 options? Does it, go through this or go directly to the 2 options?
It'll find the one that it needs.
Okay.
Yeah. So the order of these doesn't matter. I get
Okay.
the order of anything in the class doesn't matter. The convention though is you put your fields, constructors, and then methods at the bottom. But yeah, this order is just basically going to look for the constructor that takes those arguments and it'll set them, right? So as long as these match, right? It could, if I had another constructor that only took in year in charge, right? Yeah, so this, I would need to, since the variables don't match, right? It knows that, okay, he's passing in a string, he's passing in an integer, so I know to call this one. Does that make sense?
Got it.
The positions, right? Where they are.
Yeah, the position matters. Okay, any other questions? Jay, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. One more last question. So we have miles and year, or let's say year and charge, and you have miles and year. How does it know if you're referring to, because they're both ints?
Right.
How do you know? How does it know if it's referring to the miles or if it's referring to the charge or the year?
Because of the order.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Let's say you have another public class Tesla with, let's say, miles and then year. So
Oh,
they're
I see what you mean.
int, right? And then you have another public class Tesla with a year and model, which is both int also. So how do you know which one is which? Because they're both ints.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Can we try it out? Put it on
Pray
the.
that it comes out and tells you which one.
Well, no, it's gonna find the first one that matches. So if like I have not color, but if I have, because I have 3 ints, right?
Right.
2, 3, yeah.
So miles is first, years, so whatever number you put in first is gonna correspond to the first int, which is miles.
Yeah.
And then it follows that same path to charge.
Right. Right. So that would be a bug, right? That would be an example of bad coding. Because it wouldn't know, right? If I have a constructor, one of them's for miles, one of them's for year, one of them's for charge, and I pass in an integer, it's probably not going to compile. I'm guessing it won't compile. Because it's not going to it would be ambiguity. It wouldn't know which one to call. So I think it'll throw either a warning or during compile time, or it won't compile.
Can we give it a shot, see how it looks?
Sure. So let's take out color. So I have a constructor for color. I'm sorry, a constructor for miles. And let's make another one for charge. Yep. So it's already giving me a warning. See, so
What if-
it's
Int and int.
Yeah.
Ah,
so this won't compile, because if I do call one of these constructors, I could pass in 2023 here, and it's going to set my miles to 2023. If I call, Tesla with, I don't know, 0, it's going to have a charge of 0. So if there's ambiguity, it won't let you compile it.
cool.
Cool. Any other questions?